beginning of the Mass today, today we celebrate both the Thanksgiving in this country and also the Vietnamese martyr. Now, if we read this reading, you and I would look at that, and the first reading and said, the martyr must be very crazy. Not only she witnessed her 7 child being killed for the faith, actually she encouraged them to continue to take up, to stand up, and to be killed for their love of God. Well, that's the same with the Vietnamese martyr. And if you know about that faith, the Catholicism did not come to Vietnam until the late 1600s. And in that 300 years, from the 1600s to the late 1900s, about 3/4 of Vietnamese Catholic was killed. Many of them was killed in a way that would be called inhumane in the 21st century today. Just to name a few, many of them was being thrown alive into a boiling oil. So that way, like they deep fry you alive. Many of them was killed in a sense that they are being tied into a tree, put the honey on their bodies, and the ant will come and bite them alive until they die. Many of them was killed in the way that they tied their hands and their feet into the 4 horses, and then they hit the horse so the horse can split their body in pieces. Many of them was killed in the way that one person will hit a drum and the other guy will chop a piece of your body until you die. We call that crazy. Well, I call you guys crazy today the same way. What the hell you guys doing here? Well, most of the people would be sitting at home watching football right now. Most of them would be gathered around the TV with their family and party and get drunk. What are you guys doing here? You two are crazy. Not just them back then, but you and I, we are crazy today. St. Paul tells us, unless you have faith in God, everything you do will be considered absolutely not crazy, unacceptable, out of control. But because faith makes sense to every one of us. Today on Thanksgiving, while I look around the church today, except your family and Mike, I think all of us are migrants here. And probably your ancestors migrated many generations ago as well. All of us sitting there, 90% of the church, Filipinos and Vietnamese, we are migrants here. We're grateful because we are living in a free country. We joined with the Americans, migrants, many centuries ago to give thanks to God, to provide us with the amazing opportunity to be in this country, to be free, to worship Him, and to honor Him. And many of us have chosen not to do so. Sadly, isn't it? Well, giving thanks to God is not a choice, I tell people. It is an obligation. An obligation of a normal human person would do. If somebody do something good to us, what do we say? Thank you. And we show that gratitude. Many of you returning back to this little town of Montezuma, and as you walk in and you saw Mike Fitzgerald, you hug him. You're grateful when you was little, now you doctors and lawyers, when you was little 15, 20 years ago, he was like a little daddy to you. He watched over you. That is the spirit of thanksgiving. For me, I give him thanks for many reasons. For being alive today, for the opportunity to preach the good news, for the opportunity to be the priest of God, I want to tell you a true story that happened to me. As you know, I was ordained on June the 5th, 2004. About Easter break, we came back to Savannah and we talked to the bishop. We meet with the bishops and everything else. And in that conversation, he said, "Well, Martino, where do you want to serve?" I say, "Anywhere except St. Mary's on the Hill Catholic Church." And for those who don't know where that is, that's an all-white parish in the diocese, about 3 blocks away from the Augusta National. So you know how wealthy those people are, right? They are the wealthiest of all. And if I look at the church, I am the only non-white in that 6,000 people church. Well, I heard a lot about that church, so I told Bishop Boland I serve anywhere in the diocese except St. Mary's on the Hill. About 2 weeks before I was ordained, Bishop Boland called me on the phone, and he said, "Well, Martino, I got news for you. I have decision where I'm going to send you. You're going to go to St. Mary's on the Hill after your ordination." I said, "Bishop, didn't we talk about that just a few months ago?" He said, "Well, that's going to be good for you." So what I did was that I called the pastor up. I said, "Father Jerry, I'd like to schedule a visit to this church before my ordination." The Tuesday before my ordination, it was the day I supposed to come to St. Mary's on the Hill. I called Father Jerry up. I said, "No, I'm not coming there. Because I worry that if I come there, if I don't like it, I call off my ordination because I don't want to be a priest." And that's serious. And he thought I was joking, but I was serious about it. I go on with my ordination on June the 5th, 2004. I got a month of honeymoon, traveling back to Vietnam with my parents, with my godfathers, and visit and meet with the people. Reported sent to St. Mary's on the Hill, July 15, 2004. My first impression on the first Saturday was that as soon as I walked into the church, I saw a man, a white man. Of course, in that church they're all white anyways. I don't have to say they're a white man, they're all white. Well, in this church I have to say white, right? Because they are the man. A man who sits all the way at the end, the last pew on the first seat. And I didn't see him with his left hand was gone. And later on I figured out his right leg was imputed as well. They removed it. The guy sit there, so me and me, I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm very shy priest as you are. You know I'm very shy. So I just stop by and say hello to the man. And I go on with my things, watching the people and see how they react to me. This guy just put a smile on and he said, "Well, Father, thank you for coming to our church." And Saturdays after Saturday, that's where he sat. I came, I say hello, and I move on with what I do. One day his wife came to me and said, "Father, would you come and talk to Al in a closeness? He want to tell you a lot, but he didn't want to talk to you." So I made a point. One day I came early, and Al and I, we sat down and we chit-chatted. The story of his life began when his father migrated from Italy. He came here as a 5-year-old kid from Italy. 1965, after graduating from high school, he enrolled and got into military. His first overseas trip, Vietnam, April 8, 1965. He was trained to be a specialist, one who helped the South Vietnamese government to remove bombs so that they don't kill people. The way how they remove the rope bomb, and all those, and that's his special job. He spent 2 years in Vietnam, 2 more years in Korea, and returned to Vietnam beginning of 1970 as a commander. 2 months after that, in a mission, a bomb exploded. It took his right leg and his left arm. They removed his leg and his hands, his arm. Many pieces of the bomb remains in his body. And that's why he didn't want to talk to me, though deeply he wanted. But the story didn't end there. 6 years later, 2010, I buried Al. Just like every normal funeral that I do, at the end of the funeral, I ask, would the family have anything to say, or to say thanks, you can come up. Al's oldest son, Al Jr., came up and thanked everybody. After that, he handed me a very old letter. He said, Father Martino, would you have the honor of the family to read this letter? And I have that letter in front of me. May I read that to you? 1965, Vietnam. Al wrote to his oldest son. Dear Alice, I have not been able to fall asleep tonight, so I will write you a letter. I hate being separated from you in this way, and I want to be certain that you know the reason for it. Perhaps at times you wonder why I left you, your mother, and the rest of the family. You probably resent my not being there to play with you, to take you go fishing, and to do all those things that all the fathers enjoy with their boys. Maybe you even hate me for that. But son, there are something that a man has to do. I love you, of course, just as I love your mother and brother and sister. Because I love you, I would like very much to be with you. I could wish for nothing more than to be with you and Sammy, to watch and to help you grow up. I would enjoy that so much. But for a man has nothing if he has no sons and daughters. Because one day, when I will be gone, it is through you and your brother and sister that I and my name will continue. But a man has all the responsibilities that are just as important as a son and family. He has the responsibilities simply because he is a man, free and living in America. All of the rights and opportunities that you enjoy, my son, and so often take advantage and granted for, do not come easily. They have been earned for us by all the men and women and must be protected always. You do not understand now, but one day you will. You must understand, and that is the reason I am writing this letter to you tonight. Never hesitate to step out and fight for those rights, my son. For if you hesitate, you will lose them. If you are not willing to fight for them, someone will take them from you. I believe that is to be true. Just as I am sure and believe that God gave me to you and you to me, so that you can pick up where I leave off. I look forward to being home with you again and living the life that we did just a few months ago. I want that more than anything else. But if it doesn't work out that way, please understand why I had to leave you. I know you will go on and be the man that any father would be proud of. That 1965. Exactly 45 years later, on the same day and the same month that he wrote this letter, I buried Al Christie. I laid him to rest, having seen his 4 kids grow up to become prominent lawyers and judges. One got a PhD in education, the other one a plastic surgeon. On this Thanksgiving, I want to be thankful for that. For the people like Al, for the legacy that he left behind. Not just the legacy of being a free in this country, but the legacy of a man of faith. You and I are living in this free country. Do we use that freedom to stand up for those who can? Do we use those freedom to protect the good that God has given to us? Or we would use our freedom to destroy the good that God has granted and placed it into our hands? Do we use our freedom to do good, or we use our freedom to choose not to do good, and while not doing so, we allow the evil to happen in this country and around the world? The choice is yours. I hope and I pray that you make the right choice on this Thanksgiving.